So good afternoon or good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Empower First, Educate Next, Adopting an Empowerment Framework in Sexual Risk Avoidance Education. My name is Patrick Ahern with RTI, and I'll be helping out with the virtual room today. So just a quick note, your microphone and web camera will be automatically muted when you join. If you have any questions for presenters or panelists today, you may submit those into the Q&A window at any time, and we'll answer as many questions as possible following the slides. If you run into any technical issues, please let me know in the chat window. And closed captions are available during today's webinar. Just click on the Show Captions button on your main Zoom toolbar to turn those on. So at this time, I'll go ahead and turn things over to Zabryna and Asari to introduce us to today's session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Patrick. So my name is Zabryna Balén. I'm a research analyst with Caltrends, and we're really excited to get started today and talk about empowerment with youth. And I'll pass it on over to Asari. Asari, you're muted.
That's like the quote of the past 4 years. But good afternoon, everyone. My name is Asari Offiong. I'm a senior research scientist here at Caltrends, and I serve as one of the TA providers. So I might have met some of you. Really excited to talk about empowerment today, and really excited about having our young people that are going to be joining us today, and having a great discussion on why empowerment is important and how we incorporate that into our work and our programming.
Just to get started, we wanted to just highlight a few meeting norms. So we hope to hear from you to participate and engage. We want to hear what your inputs are, what your thoughts are, what examples you can bring from your own programs. And we hope that you can be fully present with us, avoiding any sidebar conversation. Chat and cell phone use may be tempting, but we're hoping to keep you engaged and interested in the content and with everything that our youth have to share today. And we promise to begin and end on time to respect yours and our time. And then for today, we have a few sections of our presentation. We're going to start with this welcome and overview. Then we're going to go into a section on how to understand empowerment frameworks broadly. And then we'll go to the our youth panel, which you all know are very excited about, empowerment through a youth lens, which we have 5 panelists here with us today. And then we will end the content part of the session with applying an empowerment framework to SRAE programs, followed by a Q&A, and then lastly a reflection and wrap up. We do ask that you feel free to post your questions in the Q&A section of the Zoom channel, and we'll get to those during that time. And then any other comments you want to leave or contributions, feel free to add those into the chat. So today we have 3 main objectives. We hope that by the end of this webinar, you all are able to define an empowerment framework that highlights agency, autonomy, and a strengths-based framing. Secondly, we hope that you're all able to recognize the value of using empowerment within SRAE programming. And lastly, learn from the amazing youth we have with us today about different ways to apply an empowerment framework into programming. So to y'all get us all thinking about youths and teen, we want you to roll back the time and think about when you were a teenager, when you were in middle school and high school, and what that was like. So if you want, the instructions are at the top of the page here. If you haven't used Poll Everywhere before, you can either text 22333 or send the message 22333 to, sorry, the phone number would be 22333, and the message would be SRAE 0224, or you can hold up your phone to the little QR code in the corner. Either way, what we're asking you kind of to reflect on is to think back to when you were a teen and what were some of the things you were told not to do. We have some answers coming in. I'm guessing the stay is like stay past, stay up late, stay past curfew, stay past 10 p.m. It's kind of shifting the words here a little bit, but kind of about maybe talking to strangers, about smoking and drug use, about swearing, about who you can date and how you can date. Another person in the comments here says, don't get pregnant. Maybe about how you're talking to your elders, about sex life, marriage. What else do we have going on here? About I've heard changing about the language you use, so probably about swearing, about how you respect or disrespect, about babies and pregnancy likely. So those are some great answers. Thank you all for sharing. I think we can all agree that there are a few things that we were all told, don't do this, don't do that, and kind of feeling that sense of control or dictation in our early teen years. All right, let's go ahead and go to the next question. Thank you all for responding. So as a teen, what did you think of? What did you respond? What did you react when you were told not to do all of these things? As young people? Yeah, I did it. I feel like that could have happened with many of us that rebel against what you were being told, because these were things that like adults didn't understand. Do it anyway. And I don't think this has changed very much in today's time. Be curious about the things that you were told not to do. Ask why. So why are we being told not to do something? What's the rationale behind it? So I think we can all kind of made me curious and want to break the rules. I'm not you, so kind of telling the adults, well, I'm not you. I didn't do that. And some of us listened pretty well. I know that sometimes it's easier to abide by the rules than not. I feel like they're scared because it was like something that was instilled fear in what your parents or adults kind of like made you scared about something, or felt that they didn't get you as a teen. So this is really important to highlight as we kind of go into this and think about that timing and that framing when we're working with youth and where they're coming from. Because in a lot of SRAE programming, we're thinking about, oh, well, like we're trying to avoid unintended pregnancy, and we're trying to talk about sexual health behaviors, and it's about empowering youth to feel comfortable in decisions that they want to make for themselves, and not just telling them not to do something, because as I think is reflected here, often it has the opposite effect. Yeah, sorry, do you have anything to add there?
No, I love this activity because I think a lot of times we need to center ourselves back to when we were young people and help us to think about how that can inform the work that we do today. So this is great because, like Zabryna mentioned, these are some of the same sentiments that young people have today. And so if we can remember how we felt when we were 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 18, it'll help us to kind of see the opportunities to improve our programs and where that shift can happen. So this is really helpful. And so like Zabryna said, we want to take this into consideration and now shift from this really like either stigmatizing or really punitive approach to working with young people, or fear kind of approach to working with young people, and really sitting in a place of empowerment. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. So first, we're going to get a good understanding of what it means to take an empowerment, to take and apply an empowerment framework, and then use that to guide the rest of our conversation this afternoon. So we'll do one more poll because I like to be interactive. What words come to mind when you think of the term empowerment? And that can be in any form or facet. Validation. I love that. In the chat, someone said independent, confidence, options, good, strength, strong, youth first, capable. Confidence is one of the largest ones on there, so that means there's a lot of synergy there. We have strength, change, ability. Yeah, these are all really, really great words that come to mind when we think of empowerment. Positive, security, informed, uplift, voice. Yeah, so this is really great because this is what we want our young people to walk away with when they interface with us, when they interface with their trusted adults, when they interface with our programs. And that's not even just in the lessons that are taught, but everything that we do, the people that we hire, our approach to the work, how we market our programs, this should be the focus. Like, these are the kind of terms that we want to weave into our written products, into the things that we're saying verbally, and into our approach to working with young people. So again, we'll have these slides and maybe we'll take a screenshot of this word cloud, because I think it's a point of reference when you're thinking of applying an empowerment framework. Like, these are the kind of words that you want young people to walk away with. And these are the kind of words that you want to use to drive your programming, particularly in places that are really struggling to identify how do we describe our program and what we offer to young people. This word cloud is what everybody can agree that we want young people to have. Like, this is what we want to really center. So if you want to take a screenshot of this word cloud and think about words that you want to be able to use in any of your messaging or any of your written work, this would be great. Okay, so we'll go ahead and go on to the next slide. And so when we say what is an empowerment framework, an empowerment framework is really one that demonstrates that systemic power imbalances are core to disparities, particularly for marginalized groups, right? So this idea of an empowerment framework is rooted in movements, not just that started today, but over the course of time. And so when we think about approaching our work through an empowerment lens, is intentionally seeking to amplify the strengths of those who have been historically marginalized. The empowerment framework is explicitly rooted in the movements of the 1970s and highlights systemic imbalances. And in this case, we work with young people, right? And we work in communities that are most vulnerable. And so how do we amplify their strengths? How do we amplify their assets? How do we shift from a really all is doomed perspective and light, and highlight, okay, like, how can we center the experiences of the individuals that we're working with? And so taking an empowerment framework, like I said, is about shifting that power and working to promote agency and autonomy. And in the next few slides, we'll talk a little bit more about how we define autonomy and how we identify agency. Next slide, please. And so here, we can go back one. Okay, there we go. Thank you. So here are some empowerment definitions. And so empowerment as a larger concept is really broad. You have health empowerment, youth empowerment, there are different types. And so no matter what angle that you're looking at it from, it's all about centering personal control and power, centering the individual's needs and wants, and as an active commitment to understanding and creating a space for those individuals' wants and needs. And so all of us here work with young people, so we can see here in this quote from an article, it says that youth empowerment, while it is complex, its dimensions are associated with growth and well-being, relational, educational, political, and it's transformative, right? And so that is the beauty. And when we talk about youth empowerment, it's not about telling young people what they should or shouldn't do, but how can we create spaces for you to be the best versions of you, with you at the center of that, with you leading those initiatives. Because when young people feel empowered, those changes are more sustainable, they're more long lasting, and they're more impactful, both in the short and long term. Next slide, please. A core element of of empowerment is autonomy. Autonomy is accomplished when individuals feel empowered to make informed decisions and choices based on what they perceive that are best for them, as I just mentioned. Autonomy means that individuals have the chance and opportunity to continually make decisions, exploring as many options and as many times as they see fit. In the word cloud that we just did around what does empowerment mean, I saw that some people put in their options. So that's what empowerment is all about, is having those options and having the opportunity to make options make choices over and over again. And so when we are working with young people, not only just understanding in the stage of adolescence that there are several decisions that young people are continually making, but leaving room for them to make those decisions. And some mistakes may happen, and that's okay. We encourage you, we support you, we give you the resources and the education to kind of move forward. And so that's what autonomy is about. And so when we think about young people, particularly, adolescents are truly able to make decisions that are rooted in their autonomy when they're provided with the right information at the right time, at the right place, by the right people. And so when we say right people, we're talking about trusted adults and in the right way. And each of those 5 or 6 components are so critical to really ensuring that we're creating opportunities for young people to reach and achieve autonomy. And this is where our role is, right? Providing the right information, so accurate and evidence-informed and evidence-based information, right? At the right time. When and where is this information being provided? Is it in schools? Is it after school? Is it in homes? Is it at the right age? Thinking about that. At the right place, kind of what I just mentioned, by the right people. We always say, so it's not necessarily who sends the message, but how the message is conveyed and by whom. And so really figuring out who is best suited to be able to convey information to young people, and who are young people going to feel supported by and trusted with, and in the right way, right? Not a way that's stigmatizing, not in a way that's demeaning, but in a way that young people feel supported, feel loved, and feel equipped to make whatever decisions that they need to make. Next slide, please. And so if we really take a step back and think about it, when we apply an empowerment framework, it's really rooted in what we call positive youth development, which I know for all of us on the call, that's terminology that we hear often and that we're really familiar with. But when we really truly decide to apply a positive youth development approach to our work, that is taken an empowerment lens, because it's built on strengths and focused on increasing self-efficacy. So just by putting these two side by side, and we're going to go into a little bit more depth where Zabryna is going to walk through PYD and how that's rooted in an empowerment lens, we see how they work hand in hand. And if you are taking a positive youth development approach to your work, then you are taking an empowerment approach to work. And that is what we really want to continually to center as we're working with young people. So I'm going to pass it over to Zabryna, and Zabryna is going to walk us through positive youth development, particularly centering productive health and thinking through an empowerment lens.
I did the same thing. Sorry, I started talking without unmuting myself. Well, but thank you. So in talking about positive youth development framework, to guide our understanding of empowerment in youth settings, we want to introduce this framework, which many of you may be very familiar with. It has founded itself in these empowerment principles and gives us a structure to understand the key components to supporting healthy, productive, and engaged youth. And so this framework, as Asari said, goes hand in hand with empowerment. It's based on the same principles. And so engaging in a positive youth development framework, you are inherently engaging in an empowerment framework. The framework highlights assets which are available, what is available to youth. It's shown there in yellow, calling attention to the idea that youth need the right resources and skills in order to achieve their desired outcomes. Next, we have contribution in gray, which is where youth themselves are the source of change for their own development and their community's development. They themselves are contributing to their surroundings and are active members of the society that they're in. The framework also highlights enabling environment. And as you can see there in that like teal blue color, it's something that is all encompassing. It speaks to youth surroundings and how those surroundings support the other components of the framework. The environment includes the social, normative, structural, and physical spaces that surround youth. When these spaces are supportive, youth are able to more readily avoid risk and live safely, securely, and without fear of violence or retribution. To support youth development, youth environments should encourage and recognize youth while also promoting their social and emotional competence. And so lastly here in this framework, we have the like reddish pink section, which is agency. Agency within this framework is where youth both believe and have the ability to employ their assets or resources and their dreams or aspirations to make decisions for themselves, setting goals for the future and act upon those decisions to reach their goals. I'm going to go to the next slide. So the definitions here, one of the more academic ways to kind of define it is the Grisolfi definitions, where a person's agency in a brief period of interaction is in part whether he or she initiates an idea, agrees with, elaborates on, questions, or disagrees with what someone else initiated or refrains from responding. And essentially what in many words is trying to say is that people have a choice and feel comfortable people have a voice and feel comfortable using that voice in their daily interactions with others. That is essentially what agency boils down to. Can you speak for yourself? Can you actually be in an environment that supports you in speaking up for yourself and be able to make decisions based on those supportive networks? Overall, though, the last bullet point kind of highlights that it's definitely context dependent. How youth are able and people in general are able to engage with the systems and around them kind of dictates whether or not they can engage in agency and have access to agency. Yeah, so go ahead and go to the next slide. So in the next few slides, we're going to talk about several components of agency. These components include positive identity, self-efficacy, goal setting, perseverance, and positive beliefs about the future. Together, these pieces help youth in developing an internal sense of agency towards themselves. Next slide, please. For a young person, a positive identity allows them to believe in their own self-worth, to feel optimistic about the future. And so for a young person to obtain this positive identity, they have to feel that they have a personal power. That means that they can feel that they have control over what happens to them. Youth should also feel a sense of self-esteem, meaning they feel confident about themselves and about the decisions that they make. A positive identity is also fostered when youth feel that their life has purpose and meaning, something that grounds them and encourages them to set goals and dreams. And hand in hand with that sense of purpose is feeling optimistic about their future. This means that they're not only able to dream about it, but see how those dreams are achievable. It's important to note that many youth that we work with come from historically marginalized backgrounds. And so there are substantial barriers to making these components of like a positive identity a reality. And so it is about kind of identifying the spaces where we can encourage youth, where we can support them to build up that sense of confidence, that sense of self-esteem, find things that they can believe in and that that are achievable to them. Next slide, please. Aside from positive identity, self-efficacy is a key component that contributes to a young person's agency. Self-efficacy refers to a young person's belief and or capacity to behave and act in ways that reach their desired goals. These actions or inactions are shaped by a young person's confidence in their ability to control their own motivations, behaviors, and social environments. Self-efficacy is heavily shaped by a young person's environment and messaging. So that environmental influence influences whether a young person feels that they can make those decisions and act in a way that is supportive of what they want in life. In order for youth to have the sense of agency that we've been talking about, they also have to feel that they can plan ahead and make goals for themselves. Doing this helps young people look at the bigger picture and understand the journey towards whatever it is that they want to achieve. It can help them make plans, manage their time and resources, and identify where they may need help. For young people, learning how to set goals has many benefits. This includes achieving whatever it is that they set out to do, increasing their self-confidence through the process of working towards goals, understanding and developing work ethic, including time management, learning what helps motivate them, building their perseverance when things don't go quite as planned, and finally learning when to ask for help in achieving their goals. When it comes to agency, it's the forward-thinking part of this that is required to set goals and plan is what's key to kind of ground that sense of agency in the individual youth. Additionally, the skills that they develop as they work towards building those goals can support that sense of agency. Again, it's still important to note, though, that youth that we work with may feel that there's no point in planning, that there's no point in having these goals when they feel like they're not achievable. And so sometimes it's about making small, measurable steps and showing them that, yes, they can do this and meeting them where they are. It might not be about setting goals to graduate college. It may be about, let's go and make sure we are at class every day, 5 times a week, when they, just to get to school, might have to take 3 buses and find childcare and get themselves present. And maybe they might be 15 minutes late, but they're there. And so it's not about being punitive with the steps that they're taking, but rewarding and highlighting and making them and supporting that sense of reward, that internal motivation that they have, to make those small steps that then eventually build towards bigger and bigger goals. But we cannot negate the small things that are just as big celebrations in the lives of the youth we work with. Asari, do you have anything to add? I don't know, I saw you nodding.
No, I love that. And I think I love that last point, because I think that's what gets forgotten in a lot of these conversations. Yes, we have the big goals for young people and we have aspirations for our young people. But like Zabryna mentioned, young people are inundated with so many things, right? Like, yes, we were all once 16, but we weren't 16 in 2024. And what young people are dealing with is a lot. And so sometimes if we can make the success or the goals or the things that they're achieving even just smaller, and celebrating those small wins add up to bigger wins. And so not negating that. And so as we're thinking about how do we empower young people, how do we get young people motivated, it is like those smaller things what may seem minute to us, but it is big. And like Zabryna used that example, you came to class 5 days a week out of the school week. Great. Now that you're here, now let's move on to the next step. How do we keep you engaged? And then we move on to the next step, and all of that kind of adds up. So I think that was such a great point to make. And when we're really thinking about tangible ways to empower young people, I think that's a very clear example of how that can be done.
Let's go ahead to the next slide. Thank you. So another component to agency is perseverance. And this is indicative of youth having a growth mindset. So feeling that their skills can be developed through effort and hard work. So again, finding those small points where we can feel that youth build their perseverance, we can see those shifts in the growth mindset, meaning that we can see the little small things build up to count towards the big things. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So we have some examples here, some tips to kind of promote perseverance. So we want to encourage positive self-talk and mindfulness. So instead of saying, I'm not good at this, we're hoping to support youth to instead say, I'm not good at this yet. And so it's building those steps that, like, okay, I might have failed that math test, but you know what? I did answer that one question that was giving me a hard time, right? And I did get that one right. So it's just shifting that, like, it's achievable. There are small things that can be done that I can eventually do better and be where I want to be. Additionally, praising efforts and not intelligence. So instead of like saying, great job, you're so smart, it's great job, look how hard your work paid off. So the efforts that they're putting in are being rewarded. And that's what we want to support youth in. Reframing failures into a growth perspective. So we want to hope that youth don't say, I give up, but we want to encourage them to say, okay, what went wrong and where can I fix it next time? And so we as adults in this space want to encourage these conversations while also allowing youth to struggle and figure it out. So sometimes it's not here I can help and stepping in and doing something for a youth person. It might be supporting them and letting them figure it out sometimes, while having the structure in place to make that success possible, and being able to be there to ask questions, but not just stepping in and trying to resolve the issues necessarily for them, because it's building that decision making and those skills that will lead them to have that sense of agency, the sense of perseverance in the long run. Next slide, please. And the last component of agency we wanted to highlight was the positive beliefs about the future. So I think everything we've talked about to this point contributes to this, and it's a reflection of that internalized hope and optimism that we want to support youth in obtaining. And so for youth to maintain that optimism that they can do it, that they will do it, whatever the it is that they are so excited about, that's the important part. Like holding on to that and supporting that and finding ways to make that it thing, whatever is making them have joy, have excitement. That's what we want to build the support around and find ways to keep them going on what's making them excited. Their beliefs about the future are shaped by the kind of the goal-oriented thoughts and motivations, which can include setting up goals that are meaningful and attainable, planning for the future, and continuing to feel confident in themselves. And so together, that's going to help build those positive ideas that like, I can do it and I have the steps and the skills needed to do that thing. All right, next slide, please. And I'll hand it back over to Asari.
Yeah, thank you, Zabryna. And so everything that Zabryna just mentioned, I think is so core and really emphasizes why centering our work through an empowerment lens is not only important, but it's truly like critical to the success of our programs, right? First, it acknowledges youth's experiences in the context in which they live. Like she mentioned, many of us are working in historically marginalized communities or with youth that have just experienced a lot of trauma, a lot of trials and tribulations. So it's really important that the program centers or considers all of those elements and how we interact with them and how our programs fit within that context. It's particularly important because an empowerment framework destigmatizes behaviors or decisions that youth may encounter, or they may try, or they may experience. Our job is not to be the moral police and say what's right and what's wrong, but our job is to really provide young people with accurate information and education, opportunities to learn, and the support for them to be their best selves and for them to thrive. So we really want to create those kind of environments. And then we really want to shift the dynamic from what we think is best to what they think is best, and them feeling empowered to think through what is the best decisions for themselves. And so that's when we really sit in that place of empowerment. So with that in mind, we are so excited and happy to have 5 young adults that are gonna kind of add life and color to some of the things that we've just mentioned. What we've mentioned is from the literature and from research, but how much better is it to really hear from young people themselves to inform our work. So we're going to shift into this segment here where we're going to have a youth panel. So like I mentioned, we have 5 young people that are going to talk to us a little bit more about how they understand empowerment, their experiences, and any kind of guidance and support that they have for you all as grantees and as program folks that are working directly with young people. So before we get started, I'm going to have each of our young people introduce themselves. You can say your name, where you're located, and then we'll go ahead and get started into the questions. So whoever wants to go first.
Hi everyone, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Hi, my name is Samaya and I'm from Seattle, Washington. I'm a nursing student at the University of Washington.
Hi, my name is Dea Thompson. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky.
Hello, my name is Jemiah Gettrick. I'm from Monroe, Louisiana, and I'm 16, and I'm a peer educator for Family Development Enterprise.
Hi there, my name is Angela. I'm a third year at Harvard, based here in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I'm originally from Texas.
Hi, my name is Victoria DeRost. I am from Louisiana, Baton Rouge, and I am stationed at Blue Mountain, Mississippi. It's a little nowhere town.
Awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, I saw one of the comments. We don't have any males on the panel today, unfortunately, but hopefully in the future, as we have more panels, we'll be able to get some good representation. But really happy to have young people across the country that can give different perspectives here. And so my first question for the panel, I think is really important and helpful for all of us. If you all can explain from your perspective, what do you think is empowering for young people today?
So, for me is our voice, especially because our voice is allowing us to say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. Hey, this is my point of view, and really just trying to get our words out without being blocked.
I also agree with Victoria. Having a genuine voice in decision-making processes in any capacity is really, helpful for us. It makes us feel like we're part of the process and it gives us an opportunity to express our opinions.
I agree with those two ladies. I said having a role model for the youth as well as allowing them to make sure, as she said, making decisions in an organization helps them feel like they are wanted and that we are all a team.
Mm-hmm. I like that. That's really smart, that you're wanted and as a team. That's really good. Anyone else?
I think what's empowering for youth is guidance for skill development, such as like leadership, problem solving, communication skills, or decision making. And also, like everyone else is saying, positive role models to demonstrate like values, professionalism, and just like showing you the positive inspirations, like well, so that they can have a positive inspiration. And then the third thing that I would say also is just passionate educators. Showing that you genuinely care, and not the reason that you care is for a dollar sign, but the reason that you care is because you genuinely care about not just their well-being, but the success that they will make and just setting them up for the future and things like that.
I'm going to come up with that. Another thing, you need positive people to like show you the way, because now these days on social media, there's a ton of people that are showing bad things and showing just like drugs and the songs people listen to. Like they're always talking about like, doing drugs, money, sex, just literally everything in the middle. So I feel like those positive reinforcements will help a lot too as well.
Yes, 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 yes. Thank you. And I think it's it's empowering at the word of the day to hear you all say that young people want to be in places of leadership, like young people want to be proactive, because I do think oftentimes there's a notion that young people today don't care about things, or that they're not interested in anything positive and they don't really want to take a stand. And so hearing you all say that, no, like that is something that is wanted, but with support. Like, don't just throw young people out there, but give them the support, but give them also the opportunity to speak their mind and share their voice. Why do you all think empowerment is such a key component of programming, particularly programming that's around sexual health?
Yeah, I can start off on this point. So, because we have defined empowerment in the way that the other panelists have elucidated here, I think what we really need to recognize is that the current state of a lot of the programming around like reproductive and sexual health especially is counter to these goals, which is why they're more and more emphasized by young people who are the recipients of these programs today. And previously, I think there was an interesting power dynamic in how schools in general were taught, but especially around these topics where certain things were stigmatized or restricted. And so we're rethinking how who the stakeholders are and who's the ones most impacted by these sort of services, and reshaping how we do these programming to start from them.
Thank you.
So to go off of that, oh, you want to go, Maya?
That's okay, Victoria, you can go.
Okay, I'm sorry. Another thing about that is when it comes to sexual health, especially, we are in the youth community just in general because of like we hear, we see, and we know exactly what's happening throughout like schools. Like people talk all the time about their experiences, and we could use our voices to talk about it, to share them how we feel about it, and just like really communicating with other people. I feel like that can use our voices. We can be heard, feel, and seen.
Thank you, Victoria. I also want to add how important it is, empowerment is, and how much it impacts our ability to make informed choices about our bodies and relationships that we have. And it also helps us create like a safe space and an environment where we feel confident to ask questions. So like it was said, I believe Angela mentioned this, where we keep hearing all this information and, we take and pick what we want. But it's really important to us to get correct and factual information to base off decisions we make, whether it would be with our bodies, as I've mentioned, or relationships we have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Those are both really, really great examples. Jemiah, did you have something to say?
I was just gonna say I agree with all of the ladies. As us all being young adults, I believe like we would be like great for empowering the young youth and like letting them see us as we're closer to their age. They will be able to like contribute the information that we are giving to them and really take it valuably.
I love that. So a key part of incorporating empowerment into programming is really that peer learning or that near peer learning, and making sure that, yes, like young people want to hear from adults, but they also want to be reinforced by their peers. And so when that's included, we do a better job of that. Good. Okay, so we're gonna, what we kind of structure for the panel is like we wanted the panelists to kind of give their thoughts in general, and then we created 3 scenarios. This is for our audience, where we're going to present it to our panelists, and then they're going to give some suggestions. And I forgot to mention, if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat or in the Q&A, and we have a Q&A section that we'll be able to answer them. But as they're speaking, I might be able to pull some and have them answer as well. So if we can go to the next slide. Okay, so the first scenario that we have here is a facilitator is preparing a session focused on teen pregnancy, right? And they are aware that one of the students in the class is a young father. The session focuses on all the reasons why teens should avoid pregnancy. What should the facilitator consider to avoid being stigmatizing and really come from this place of empowerment, like we've been mentioning so far? What are you all's thoughts on how a facilitator can go about navigating the situation?
So I'm going to start this one off. So first thing first, don't call them out, because one, they're gonna feel really bad about themselves, and no one wants to be uncomfortable whenever they're sitting in class and they have to sit there. Second thing is be more, here are like ways of preventing teen pregnancy and rather than, oh, teen pregnancy is bad, you shouldn't do it. And like just giving them examples will help make it feel more not bad, especially in his situation of he is a father himself. And another thing is like letting them like tell him, like let him tell his experience. And like maybe he'll say something like, oh, the crying is so terrible. And then that's like, like a kid's crying would be terrible because then they're like, oh, I don't want a kid crying and wake me up at 2 a.m.
So you're saying not calling out the young man and being aware of him being in the classroom. Okay. What are some other suggestions that others have?
Like Victoria said, I feel that it is important to consider the diverse backgrounds and experiences of people who are attending these classes, especially for this young father. I would say it is important to avoid using stigmatizing language or making assumptions that could alienate the student or having feeling shame of any sort. And like Victoria said, talk about preventative methods instead of focusing on the situation that has already happened. And this could be ways like providing additional support, like counseling services or community programs that can help this address these or support this young father.
Another thing I wanted to say is like helping them know that a road is ahead and get a trusted adult and letting them talk to them.
That's really good. Shamaya, I think I saw you come off of mute. Were you going to say something?
They really said everything that I had to say, but basically what I said was the facilitator shouldn't make them feel bad about themselves, but yet encourage them and telling them that it's not the end of the road and they still have much time in their lives to go. And instead of downgrading them and be like, well, you shouldn't have done this. Instead, they should tell them, well, you can still live your life and you could, like Victoria said, have you a trusted adult to help you take care of your child.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not coming from a place of punishment, but like there's still opportunities.
I want to say that I definitely agree with Jemiah. So I want to piggyback off of what she was saying about like letting them know like you still have a life to live, like you can still do things. Yes, you are a father and now you have more responsibilities, but you can still continue on with life. But talking to them about continuing on with life, there also comes a conversation about a success sequence. Like you will still succeed just because you're a father. Like that's nothing that's going to hold you back. Continuing on with your life isn't just, oh, well, yeah, you can still go have fun. No, it's okay, you have a child now. You need to make sure that you're doing these steps to get to where you want to be. So that way that not only you're comfortable, but your family is comfortable as well, if that makes sense.
Makes tons of sense. And Lane, and I can assume, and some of the things that we'll talk about later too, is when we talk about empowerment, like helping young people to see like what are the options that are available for them and exploring what is interesting to them, what do they like, and helping them and guiding them in that process. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Let's go on to the next scenario. So scenario 2, an after-school counselor tells a facilitator, so we can envision that this is a facilitator for one of our SRAE programs, that some of the 7th graders have been engaging in inappropriate behaviors. They want the facilitator to address it. What thoughts do you have for how the facilitator could follow up with the 7th graders to learn more about the situation and address the issues that were brought to their attention?
Yeah, I can start off on this one. I definitely think a lot of the principles from the last point still stand, in that in these sorts of situations, the facilitator should never act in like an adversarial manner. Instead, like they may be informed of the events that the counselor saw, but it might be better to approach these individuals and ask first about their experiences and what they think happened, rather than going in with like an accusation of, oh, like you are bad because X happened, because I think that'll just close off the ability to change minds and behaviors more than anything else.
Okay, I'll go first. So it's kind of like telling a toddler like, no, 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 no. But then they're gonna be like, why? You never tell them why. You just say, because I said so. You never are like, this is why, because it's for your safety. So think of a toddler with an outlet. See, you say don't touch it, but you don't say why.
Really good. And I mean, I think that kind of builds on some of the and earlier when we did the opening icebreaker, when the participants in the room said, how did they react to when they were told no? One of the questions was like, well, why? Right. So I think that is such a good example of a child, and we can apply it to today. So thank you for that, Victoria. Any other thoughts?
I just wanted to add that when the facilitator puts the people together and starts explaining to them about like what's going on, the facilitator should definitely listen to what the children have to say. Make sure that the children feel comfortable and that they're not feeling exiled in what's going on. And you want the communication to be very well between you and the child. So to make sure that you're getting a good understanding of how they feel of going through the process.
Yeah.
Also, not making assumptions of what they're actually doing. What if they're considering, oh, they're doing something bad, but it's not actually that bad? Because sometimes people like miscommunicate of what is bad and what is wrong.
I definitely agree with all that's been said. It's really important to not make assumptions about the situation and first gather clues or what's going on. You know, it's if somebody says something, it can change once they tell the next person, and you never know what happened. And it's also really important when you're having these discussions with the youth to respect the boundaries, because creating that relationships helps with honesty. If you don't have a positive relationship with someone, it's going to be hard to, have them tell you the truth or what's going on, how they feel, and eventually, that's not going to create healthy decision making.
That's so good. And I'll just add to that too, and you all can tell me if you agree or not. Sometimes adults have like a small window, right? And how you react in that window can can inform the trajectory for everything after that. So if this is the first time a situation like this has happened, and if you react like really angrily or really like, in a way that makes young people feel scared, anything after that, like that is their first point of reference. So how you start off really, really makes a difference. So creating a safe space, creating an inclusive space for young people to share really, really makes the difference. But it is how you start. Like you have to start there. Would you all agree with that?
Yes, ma'am.
Definitely, sorry. Yeah, I feel like, the first thing that you would feel is fear. What are they gonna think? What's the adult gonna think? Because if it's someone you look up to, you're always gonna, think about what their opinion is of something that you did. So if they react negatively, like you said, we're gonna go based off of that, and it's really hard to make decisions moving forward.
In middle school, I was really put down a lot because I would ask questions and they really never really told me my answers, and I didn't have to find out until I was older. And I feel like, yes, middle school is a very tough situation and middle school is really hard. But trying to understand different age groups will help a lot, and communicating, like letting them use their voices.
Yeah, that kind of goes along with what some folks are saying in the chat, that middle school is tough. And it is tough, right? And it's tough for young people because they're in this space where their bodies are growing, their hormones are changing, they're getting new friends, they're losing friends, they're trying to identify their identity on top of like navigating where they fit in the world. And so it takes a lot of patience on the adult side to kind of navigate that. Go ahead, Zaya.
I was reading a comment in the chat and it says middle school is tough to address and facilitate. And I just want to piggyback on that. Being someone that is younger, I think that it is not, for the reason of I see more things than what someone older than me will see. And in a way, I'm still kind of connected with middle schoolers. So with that being said, I think what is mistaken is that you think, oh, there's a time and a place for these conversations. And yes, do not get me wrong, I do believe so for some conversations, but not all. A lot of the times with how society is today, like these middle schoolers know things that you would think that they would not know, things that they should not know at their age yet. So with that being said, conversations, I'm not saying they have to be had, but you may think, oh, they're too young to have this conversation. No, they're not. I guarantee you, you'll bring up a topic and they can tell you all about it. So just knowing, one, knowing your audience is important. Two, setting up boundaries is very important. Like I said, there is a time and a place for some conversations, but a lot of times these kids be knowing. So I feel like they really appreciate when someone is genuine and real. So just be genuine, be real, and I guarantee they'll look at you, be like, okay, this is someone I can look up to, or this is a role model. Like, let me truly take into consideration what this person is telling me because they're trying to help me.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and go to the next scenario. And I see the question in the chat, and I think this next scenario will answer that, Lizette. So in this third scenario, we have some community members are pushing back on the program because they've heard misinformation about the program and that it's spreading inappropriate messages to youth. What suggestions do you have for how programs can engage their youth to help educate the community about the program and its benefits?
I can jump in again here. I have to head off to class soon, but I wanted to mention that it's really important to recognize that the community members are in fact a part of the community, and what they say can have influence on how many people are able to engage in the program. So addressing the misconceptions they have is really key to ensuring that young people have access to these opportunities to learn in a destigmatized way. And so I think first and foremost, making sure to prepare the outline of the curriculum and walking it through with community members who may have qualms about certain issues or may have just misunderstood is really important to demonstrate that it is very appropriate for their age and capacity. But also I think straddling the line and ensuring that although they might be concerned, it's still maybe not the best environment to have these members in the programming while it is being delivered to youth, and having that sort of barrier allows youth to ask questions and feel comfortable while having the approval of the community members.
Thank you, Angela. And if you have to hop off, totally fine. Thank you so much.
So I have something to say with that as well. So the community, they're not really there all the time in classes. So maybe inviting them into classes and like really showing them what's going on so they don't like misattribute what is going on in the actual classes. Also, another thing, what's going on are using our voices as empowerment videos, TikToks, Facebook, Instagram, literally anything of any type of social media of doing videos and like doing role plays and doing all this will really, really help. I feel like helping get the point across of we're not trying to make it sound bad. This is what we're actually doing.
I love that, Victoria, and I think that kind of answers one of the questions I have to address the stigma that parents have. And I think like you said, community members, but that can include parents or any trusted adults. You invite them into the space and seeing what is actually happening. Really, really great example. Any others?
I agree a lot with what the other two ladies have had to say. Specifically in our organization, we have rites of passage for males and rites of passage for females. Well, we have facilitators, like younger facilitators who are just like, in college, that teach these students, and they are able to like allow the students to feel comfortable in their set when we're talking about these sensitive information. And while they are doing that, we also allow like parents to be with their child while in this class of learning, to where the parents can like listen and understand and see exactly what the child is learning themselves, as well as like we offer testimonies from what some of the children have taken the class. And we just want everyone to feel comfortable and loud, like allowed the parents to know, like, hey, this is what your child is learning, and it is not inappropriate. It's very appropriate and important for your child to know.
Another thing off of that, so what if we bring them to the class and they hear something new? Bringing them to the class and bringing them all together will also make them learn something new they might never ever heard of. So I feel like that will also help with explaining it whenever they have questions to the parents and to the community.
I just want to say I am a healthy relationship facilitator. I facilitate a program called Love Notes. And if you don't know what Love Notes is, it's a healthy relationship evidence-based curriculum that coaches teens, young adults how to build healthy relationships by addressing healthy romantic relationship skills such as like communicating skills and family planning and talking about consent and dating violence and a success sequence, as I mentioned earlier on. And that success sequence is if you wait to have sex, like this is what the success will look like if you follow these steps. And another thing, Love Notes really focus on teen pregnancy prevention and following the steps of planning, pacing, and preventing. So with that being said, with that program that I teach, we do it like a camp style. We do schools as well, but I wanted to touch a little bit on the camp style because we get a lot of the community to come out to the camp, well, the community teams to come out to the camp. And with that, parents, they don't really know what Love Notes is. They know, the background information that, that I just gave to you all, but they don't really know the conversations that we're having in there. So just to get them more engaged and them to know more about Love Notes, we have a thing called Family Night. And just a brief overview of what family night is. We bring the family in, we have food, people are gonna come because the food, drinks and things like that. And we talk to the parents about, okay, these are the conversations, like, yes, this is what Love Notes is, but these are the conversations that your teens are having within the camp style of Love Notes. And then we also do an activity with the parents. And for that activity, we bring in the students. And by this time, the students have already, or the campers, whatever you want to call them, they have already been through the lesson. And so they do the activity and they also help their parents with the activity and say, hey, no, mom, in camp, we did this and this is how we created this and this is what we talked about. So let me help you with this activity because we already did this. Now I can kind of coach you on it. So the parents is kind of taking a seat back and they're like, oh, this is what you were learning when you were there for this amount of hours. So I think that is very cool that me and my program, we do family night. So you all should take that into consideration. If any other programs out there, if you're looking for how to get the community involved more, and how to spread the message to the parents so that they truly know what it is that their children are doing.
That's a great example. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I think that's what we want everybody to be able to walk away with, like tangible ways that we can, because these are real challenges, right? And it's not just easy to say like, oh, just, forget about it. Like they'll learn eventually, but really practical ways to engage young people, their families, their communities, their loved ones, because it does take a community effort to really support young people and empower young people. Like what they're learning at school, after school, needs to kind of affirm what they're learning at home as well. So if we can work as a team, again, we'll have long-lasting impacts. This is great. For the sake of time, we're not going to do the last question. I think for some of our panelists that can stay around, we'll have a section for Q&A. I think there are a few questions in the chat, and you all have gotten so much love in the chat. Everybody thinks that you all are amazing and they all want to hire you. So thank you so much. So we're going to shift over to the last section. And so for our panelists, if you can stay around for the Q&A, that'd be great. If you can't, no worries. If there are any particular questions that are geared towards you, we can follow up with you and share some resources for our panelists. So again, thank you to our panelists. We're going to go into this last section, and then of course we'll do the Q&A. So if you have any questions for our panelists or for myself and for Zabryna, you can go ahead and put them in the chat and we'll circle back to them. Okay. I'll see you, Zabryna.
All right, I was muted again. Hi, everyone. Weren't those panelists just great? I love hearing from the youth themselves about real tangible ways of applying empowerment in practice. And so we kind of wanted to give you guys some checkpoints or pointers to guide whether or not you feel like your program is including empowerment and framing your messaging and the way you approach things in an empowerment lens. So some of those points, these checkpoints include bodily esteem, awareness, autonomy, youth voice, self-efficacy, social support, future orientation, and safety and protection. So these checkpoints can be used to help summarize the elements of empowerment that your program may already be doing and help identify what places your program may be able to take a more empowering approach. These elements can be part of the way you're implementing the program or in the design itself, regardless of where or when you add in these components to your program. Together they can help youth feel more empowered and make support them in making decisions for themselves and being supported in that decision making. So as we go through the next 2 slides, I'm going to describe each of these checkpoints, and then we'll pose an idea on how we can apply this checkpoint to programming. But we would love to hear from you all about things that you may have done in your program to achieve some of these things. So feel free to add those to the chat as we're going through the individual checkpoints. Next slide, please. So the first checkpoint is bodily esteem, awareness, and autonomy. So this is when youth are able to prioritize their physical self, have bodily awareness and self-esteem, have information or know where to access that information. So that goes hand in hand with knowing what trusted adults they have around them and who can kind of give them the information they're looking for, and even understanding their rights as teens, whether and where they can get sexual health care and what they can have access to and what their rights are, regardless of how old they are. Sorry, if you want to take over our example there.
Yeah, so an example here, and our young people just shared a lot of great examples I think that can be covered in all of these different checkpoints. But one thing that we have here is that at the beginning of your program, when you're starting to build rapport with young people, have them design their own preamble, right? So preamble is like their values, their pledge to themselves, or what they're dedicating them, what they want to, how they view themselves. And so helping them create that and using that throughout your programming and having them refer to that. So that's like a nice activity to really get young people thinking about autonomy, their self-esteem, and awareness of themselves. So that's a great one example of something that could be woven into an activity.
Next slide, if you don't mind. Thank you. So and the second checkpoint here is youth voice. So I think we heard this throughout all of our youth and how they described what feels empowering to them. And when you feel comfortable expressing their opinions to both peers and adults, even if their opinion may be different than everyone else, youth voice is also when they can feel that they can resist pressure from others and feel that they can speak freely. So having the confidence to speak out and speak up, regardless of whether it might be different, and without shame of feeling that they might be wrong or that someone's going to judge them for the way that they have an opinion about something or view something. And I think this is really important in today's time. When we think of youth, they're heavily influenced, as many of us through adulthood are, by social media. And there's this idea of cancel culture that if you say the wrong thing, you can be kind of stigmatized for it. So I think it's really important to try to create spaces that you feel comfortable asking those questions that they might feel, oh, everyone already knows this, I don't want to say this, or I don't really think the same way everyone else does, but I want to bring something up. And so creating those spaces are really important.
Yeah, and so there are different ways that you can pull in youth voice. If you have the capacity, some folks have like youth advisory boards or a task force that involve young people, and those are great. And if you have the opportunity to do that, you can do that. But I know everyone doesn't always have the staff or the capacity to handle that. But smaller ways that you can incorporate youth voices, having young people do curriculum reviews or having them help you select what curriculums that you all decide to implement. And so just getting buy-in from young people on whatever program that is or whatever activity that is, that's a great opportunity to integrate their voice and ensure that they're invested.
Next slide. The third point here is self-efficacy. So that's when youth feel that they're able to choose if and what they want in their life, specifically speaking to if they want to engage in sexual activity at all, when they want to, and what they may want to do when they engage in sexual activity. Self-efficacy is also when youth have the freedom to make choices for themselves and choose actions in support of those choices. So it's not just saying, oh yeah, I want to do this, but I can engage in the steps that will lead me to that overall goal. It's also when you feel that they have a say in their life and they're able to contribute to the decisions that impact them. So not just being told you're going to do A, B, and C, but you're going to actually have options. You can pick any of these paths or you can make your own. And there's nothing wrong with any of them. There's no one right or wrong way to do things.
Yeah, and that's really emphasizing your program here. We have an example of developing a program model. So when I was in grade school, my 7th grade English teacher created a model to say set goals and not limits. And decades later, I'm not going to say how many decades later, we still say that today, to set goals and not limits. And that just saying that and that being repeated and woven into our everyday being really highlighted that we really can set goals and not limits. Like, we can do all things. Like, there's nothing that is out of my reach. And so incorporating that kind of motto in your program will last with young people more than you realize it. So that's an opportunity of how you can instill this checkpoint of self-efficacy through your program.
Next slide. Another key checkpoint here is social support. And social support is when youth have a solid support system that is judgment-free and includes both adults that they can trust in, but also their peers that they feel that they can count on them. This also includes youth that have someone to talk to about the changes they're experiencing developmentally, and someone that they can go to for their sexual and reproductive health questions, that they feel that they're going to get the right answers and that they can not be judged for any experiences they may share or feel shame for any of that.
Yes, and the example here, a few of our panelists already mentioned this. So holding trainings or activities for not only just parents, but trusted adults in the lives of young people that have impact, that they can co-learn with their young people and support those young people. So that's a really good opportunity to enhance that social support. Next slide.
And this checkpoint's future orientation kind of ties back to what we were discussing earlier about perseverance and having a growth mindset and setting goals. So for this checkpoint, youth will have ideas about their future self and have thought about how they can reach that image of themselves that they have in their head. And also just creating that image itself of what it is that they see themselves as. It's also when youth have role models or mentors, like many of our youth panelists spoke about, that can guide them in building their future. It's people that they can count on and rely on. And it's important that we as people working with youth can be one of those people that they can count on when maybe some of their others adults in their life, they feel like they may not always be able to.
Yes, and so a part of that, an opportunity to kind of connect youth to different programs, other people, other places. They're really giving them a wealth of options. Again, that kind of goes back to the words that we use when we think about empowerment, is giving young people options and not just restraining them to one idea. So the more options we give young people with that social support, we start to see young people feel really empowered and grow and thrive. Next slide, please.
And then the last checkpoint we wanted to highlight is safety or protection. So for youth to feel empowered through any of the topics that we've discussed today, they have to feel safe in their surroundings and in their day-to-day life. So one of the things they can do is develop a safety plan. And I'll kind of pass that to Asari to talk about a little bit more.
No problem. Yeah, one of the things that I've done in past programs and that we've learned, particularly working with young people in certain environments, that safety planning is important and it's real, right? Like, we can't assume that young people are not being inundated with different decisions or different experiences. So incorporating this as an activity that, who do young people go to? Do they have code words if something happens to them? Or like, how do they really feel like in the event of a situation, I have something that I can turn to? And so this is a great activity. If you haven't done it before, there are different templates out there on helping young people think through a safety plan and how that then empowers them in those times where they have to make really hard decisions that they may experience. So I know we kind of ran through those, but we definitely want to leave some time for our Q&A. Again, these slides will be available after the webinar is over, but we wanted to open the floor for some questions. I did see a few here that I will ask our panelists. And so if you have others, if folks want to come off mute, you can do that. But in the meantime, I'll ask this question. If you have more, you can add to the chat. So for our panelists, someone had a question here that said, we often have low attendance at our virtual parent nights. Do you have any recommendations for attracting and pulling in parents or trusted adults to see our programs before they are in school? So if you guys have any like suggestions, especially when like those parent nights are virtual, if you have any ideas.
So I do have an idea. I used to do gymnastics, and I would have to do like online classes with all the kids, and I would have the parents get involved by doing a little dance activity, doing a little song kind of thing. I know it's like doing that with younger kids, but also another way we could make it fun for like teenagers and younger adults would be making it into a game, doing like least from greatest kind of thing, doing something like that. Like, what do you think is most? Like four corners kind of thing, or like holding up numbers or doing something like that. I feel like that could really help and get parents involved in that.
Thank you.
I want to add that previous events I've attended in the past, what they would do is we would have lunch together, even if it was virtual. So if it's in the budget, like if you're able to, like, they send us like a $25 DoorDash gift card, and we can all order our lunch, eat together, and have those discussions, because I feel like more than anything, people love food and people will come for food. So I feel like those DoorDash gift card have really increased attendance for other programs that I have attended. So if there's budget for that, that's always a good option.
I agree. I was just going to say it, whether it's kids or adults, we all love food and free food. So that's a good thing. I'll add to that too, like, parents have a lot going on too. So the time of day that you're doing some of those events, how long they are, like keeping all of that into consideration, maybe having them at different time points throughout the week may be helpful, just to accommodate for different schedules.
Yeah, to add off of that, sorry, I think if you piggyback off of something that the youth already have to be there, like it's an attendance thing, like if they're already there, trying to get it, okay, it's around pickup time, or it's instead of having parents come back, okay, they picked up their youth at 5 o'clock, and now you're asking us to come back at 7 for a family night, then it's like, okay, well now what am I going to do? And you add multiple kids to the situation, it makes it difficult for them to attend or want to attend.
Mm-hmm. And go ahead.
I know I'm the one who kind of like threw parent night out there, so I would also like to say and give some tips. Like for our parent night, it's not virtual, it's in person. And we have ran into some issues far as like transportation, or maybe parents don't have like a babysitter or a nanny at the time. So we're very much open to giving them transportation. Like we'll have like a Y bus, like if they're local, because it is like community. If they're local, then we would get transportation for them, like on the Y bus, and we tell them like, you're more than welcome to like bring, your kids. We don't want maybe like all 10 there. But if you can't find a babysitter for the night and you got 2 little kids with you, like that's fine. It is a Y, so it's very friendly for the community. So it's always something for the kids to do somewhere. But far as looking at it from like a virtual parent night, I would definitely say shoot for other days throughout the week. Um, Also, just how someone was saying, I forgot who it was, but parents have their own schedule, and it can get very hectic at times. So just how this webinar is recorded, you can also record your virtual meeting so that they can watch it on their own time. Rather, that's like when they're cooking dinner, they're watching it for about 10 minutes, then the next 10 minutes while they're maybe brushing their teeth for the night, just trying to fit it into their schedule somehow. Whoever wants it, who doesn't. Don't really bend yourself out of shape about it. But that's just advice that I have for you.
Good stuff. Good stuff. I'll also add in too, one of the things I learned when I was implementing programs, middle school is right around the age where parent engagement does start to kind of drop off, right? In elementary school, it's really easy to get parents really engaged. In middle school, it's a little bit harder. So what we used to do is really engage our young people and really use our young people and get them their parent participation connected to their rewards or their incentives, and so really leveraging the excitement that your young people have, and getting them to invite. And sometimes we opened the door so it wasn't just their biological parent but a trusted adult, right? Because sometimes mom or dad may just really be busy, but there's a big cousin that they're really connected to, or grandma. And so really expanding who that adult can be that can represent that young person, a mentor, a coach, like opening those opportunities and engaging other adults that may be in their lives. So we had a question here that they would love to learn more about the camp, Daya, that you mentioned. So the age, the length, the time of year, is there a fee? I know you're associated with YMCA, so if you don't mind talking just a little bit about your camp and how you all weave in your programming there.
Yeah, so our camp is a 5-day camp. It's about, I want to say 8 hours a day, so from about like 9 to 5. And so how we set it up is for like when the children, or when teens, because I hate when you call them children, but when teens have this like spring break, winter break, when they have the periods of when they have break is when we'll host the camps, which works out really good for us because a lot of parents is like, okay, what am I going to do with my kid while I'm at work? And they are on winter break or on spring break or something like that, or what can I figure out, like what opportunities is out there for them to engage in or things for them to do, so that way they're not just sitting in the house on their break. So that's how we do it. Far as like what time of the year, the length, like I said, it's a 8-hour camp. And we don't just give them the whole love notes for the whole 8 hours. How we do, we break it up. So the first, I want to say 5 hours, we're doing love notes. Well, I'll take that back. For the first 4 hours, 4.5, we're doing love notes. So we try to shoot for 3 lessons a day. Sometimes we can do more, sometimes it's less, depending on how conversation go and engagement. And then we'll have lunch. And then after that, we have something called the Teen Tech Center. I'm not sure if anyone is familiar with that, but it is a space that is filled with MacBooks, Apple desktops, some are MacBooks. They can make music, play games. There's a studio in there, there's podcasts. And then that period of time, they're not just in there having fun, but they're doing things to engage more people into Love Notes to say, hey, we're going to write a song, and in Love Notes, we're learning planning, pacing, and preventing. So then they make a song out of the 3 Ps or something like that to kind of promote Love Notes and things like that. And then the fee, we do no, there is no fee. Take that back. There is no fee to register or like to sign up. It's completely free. You may run into the problem, and some advice that I can give, because we have ran into this problem where people will be like, oh, well, we register for free. So, I mean, if we don't go, then we don't go. It's not like, money's coming out of our pocket. So I would say do a fee. Maybe even if it's just like $5. The only thing that we're holding back on with that is that we have a lot of children from like foster care and things like that, and we don't want, them to hang and things like that. So if that does occur, I would say just void it out for them, but like everyone else, could pay a fee. So hopefully that answers your questions. If you have any more, feel free to ask.
Thank you. I'm going to ask one more question. I'm going to ask Jamai to answer this one because I think this would be a good question for you. And then that'll be our last question. So someone said, in my experience, middle schoolers tend to be more open and willing to learn and apply the curriculum / information we bring. As teens get older, they seem less likely to accept or apply it. This could be a perception thing where they're listening but just not showing it. They would love your input or your thoughts on that. Do you think that's true? That as teens get older, it becomes harder to like get them to listen or like really apply some of the knowledge that they're learning. And the reason I'm asking you is because you're the youngest on the panel and you are a high schooler. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that.
I do agree with it is hard to get the teens' attention now because everything is revolved around electronics and they'd rather be on the phone with their friends. But I'm sorry, I'm so brainwashed. I can't remember the question. Can you?
Yeah, so basically the person felt like in middle school, it's easier for middle schoolers to like learn and take in what is being taught to them, but as teens get older, it seems like they're less interested or they're not listening. Is that true, or is it just that they're not showing that they're listening?
Okay, I was right. Okay, so it is true because now like people want to be more engaged with their phone. They rather not like participate in things. They rather be on the phone with their friends, which is true. But like things that you can do in order to help it is like, well, like once I said before, like get someone like younger to age, like what we do with the facilitators who are closer in college to teach our classes because like you can really like, how can I say this? Oh, I was trying to stop. I'm sorry. Like you could really like get those younger adults to like grasp the attention of the teen because they're gonna be able to relate with the person more, and then the teenager's gonna be like, oh, I like this, and maybe like maybe I'm glad I took this class, or because they are getting attention from people that are their peers and they are close in age.
Mm-hmm. I like that. So really, it's not that they're not listening. It's just that as they get older, you may just need to change who the messenger is to really get them to be more active in talking and expressing their thoughts.
And I want to say sometimes for Love Notes, the age gap not age gap, but the age that I work with, they're 14 through 18. A lot of the times, that's just kids nowadays. Like I'll be in a meeting, I'll be on my phone. I'm 19 years old. Like sometimes you just can't help yourself. It's just a thing to do. So some advice that I have, like, don't think that it's you and that you are the problem, or hey, I need to get somebody else in here because these kids ain't listening to me. I guarantee you they are listening. But just because they're scrolling on TikTok or maybe they laughed at a comment that they seen, they are listening. They are listening. Just how my older ones can relate. If you have children, you might have to whisper a conversation because your child may run back and tell someone and it's not their business. You gotta kind of whisper like this. Kids are always listening. So don't be deceived by them being on their phones, or don't think that you are the problem. And just a tip also as well, if you are teaching something and you feel like they're not listening to you, or facilitating something you feel like they're not listening, give them fidgets. They love to just mess with things. So that also works as well if you feel like being on your phone is disrespectful.
Another thing to be on top of that, sometimes whenever they're on their phones or just like seem like they're not listening, they could be like needing a distraction so they could listen. Because I promise you, they are listening all the time. Like whenever I'm writing notes and I'm listening to my professor, trust me, I am writing notes and listening to every single word they're saying because I need something to do in class.
Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I know we are a minute out to being done, so this was so great. If everyone could just give our panelists a round of applause, and there's some reactions, I just want to say thank you. I think this was a really, really great discussion. toward the end of the slides here, we won't have time to do like our reflection questions, but we have resources that will be attached to this webinar, and our contact information will be there as well. Really, really thank you for joining us today. We had 130 people present for this webinar, and I think it's really because of our young people that were here. So shout out to y'all. And I'll just end with saying, I really, what I put in the chat is that a lot of it is being consistent. Young people, like they mentioned, are listening, and they know when to circle back to you when an issue actually comes. So just being consistent and really being authentic and honest and a safe space, a safe landing space. That's what our young people are looking for. And I know a lot of you are already doing that. So thank you. And I'll turn it over to Denise.
Hi, everybody. I'm Denise Dickinson from RTI, and I coordinate the webinars for the SRAE Training and Technical Assistance team. And I just wanted to give another huge shout out and thank you to our presenters and our amazing youth panelists. And I just wanted to put in a quick plug for at the end of the webinar, when it ends, you will get a pop-up feedback survey on your screen. And I just wanted to ask if you take just a minute, it's very short, to please let us know what you thought of the webinar, what we can do better, and what other topics we can provide to you that would be helpful to you all. And again, thank you everybody so much. And thank you for all the amazing engagement on the webinar as well from the participants. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.